Don't mind me, I'm just filming my thumbnail. Hi, I'm Chris, and welcome to episode 6 of the Crochet Cryss Podcast. My sister Lisa and I own the yarn store Knit Sheep in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, and this is where I come to talk about all my crochet stuff. So, and I shouldn't have thrown that away because this right here represents progress. This is what's left of the third of 4 skeins that I'm using to make my off-road sweater. I have just finished the back and I steam blocked the front and the back, so they're laying out right there, a little damp, so they're drying. So I am like 82% done with my sweater. I have to admit, I flagged a little bit there in the middle. You know, I've never made a fingering weight sweater before, and it's something that I'd heard people talking about, and I was really excited about the idea, but I'd never actually done it. And when I started, I was very excited, and I fairly flew through the front. But the back, row after row after row of all single crochet in fingering weight yarn with a 3.25 millimeter hook. Okay, it was wearing on me a little bit, but I just had to focus on the fact that I actually want to wear this thing, right? Like that is the goal. That is what I do with the things that I make. I wear them. And thinking about that and actually, making a few little outfits in my head got me motivated again. Motivated enough to actually finish the back of the sweater. So I think, the plan is to finish the entire sweater this week. I have to do the sleeves, the neckline, and seam it all together, and of course weave in the ends. If I actually work on it this week like I should, that shouldn't be a problem at all. And I think all told, it'll probably have been maybe 6 weeks to make this sweater, which seems like a long time for me. I don't want every sweater I make to take that long, but when I thought about it like this, when I said, you know what, if I did a sweater every 6 weeks, which I don't plan to, but if I were to make a sweater every 6 weeks, I would have made 8 sweaters a year. And in those terms, it doesn't seem that bad. But I do hope to move a little bit faster with my next sweater. Speaking of, I'm pretty sure I know what I'm going to make next. We talked about it in the last episode. It's the Mitered square tunic, and the pattern is from redheart.com, and I know, pattern, right? But I plan to make mine almost nothing like the original. So they use worsted weight yarn. It's all double crochet stitch, and I wasn't at all crazy about the colors of the original either. So I'm using the yarn that I was going to use for the Rainbow Smile sweater. So I'm still going to be using my pastel rainbow colored mini skeins. The rest of the body will still be the charcoal gray, which is from Yakagani. It's their yak sock base. But that's about all it's going to have in common with the original is that basic construction that I'm going to start with a mitered square and then build my sweater around it. And I think, it's going to be longer than the sweater I'm making now. So it's going to come down, ideally it'll come down to mid-hip, provided I don't run out of yarn, which I should be okay. So I mentioned that I've never made a mitered square before, but I understood, the process of making one. Basically, you're just doing a single corner, and I've done patterns where you work a corner. So I went online and I looked through some of the books that I have to see examples of mitered squares. And all of the ones that I found were either all single crochet stitch or all double crochet stitch. And I'm actually planning to do mine in a modified version of the camel stitch. So if you're not familiar with it, the camel stitch is a row of half double crochet, and then your next row of half double crochet will be in the third loop of the previous row. And so what you're going to see is like the 2 loops that form the head of those half double crochet stitches are going to get pushed forward, and it's going to give you a raised ridge along the front of your work, and it's really nice. However, I'm doing a version where I will be doing a row of half double crochet and then a row of single crochet in the third loop, which incidentally is the pattern stitch that was used for the aslant skirt, which fell off of my queue. So I'm glad to be able to use that pattern stitch again because I really liked it. The problem that I had was because the two stitches, single crochet and half double crochet, are slightly different heights. I found that I couldn't do the corner exactly the same way for both stitches, so I spent a lot of time fiddling around with that, and I think I have something that's going to work, so I'm going to show it to you and then tell you what I did. So this is the basic idea. That's going to be my mitered square, and my sweater will have 7 colors, but I just used some sample yarn. This is actually what's left of my mini skeins from the 3 Springs shawl. I keep wanting to call it the 3 Sisters shawl. I have no idea why, but it's a 3 Springs shawl from Addie Day Designs that I made for local yarn store day, and I think I showed it a few videos back if you want to take a look at that. But this is what I have so far. So you can see these raised ridges. I don't know, maybe you can't. Yeah, I think it shows best in the teal. You can see those raised ridges. And I don't know if you can really tell. I changed how I was doing the corner like halfway through, and we will talk about that. So again, the original pattern that I'm referencing, their mitered square had open corners. So what I'm calling an open corner is when you create your corner by doing, say, a single crochet, a chain stitch, and then a single crochet. A closed corner, which some of the patterns for mitered squares that I found called for, was just doing 3 single crochet stitches in the corner. I wanted my sweater to have open corners because I really wanted to emphasize the shape of this mitered square. And I thought that both having open corners to really draw your attention to this diagonal and having the ridges from the modified camel stitch would really make it stand out that my stitches are actually moving in 2 different directions, right? So I'm going across, I'm cornering, and then I'm traveling down. So I really wanted to have those 2 features in place. But like I said, I was having a little bit of trouble with my corners, meaning having trouble making sure this actually came out as a square without this corner either coming out too long or pulling in and being too short so that I didn't get a square shape. I was having trouble doing that if I made my corners the exact same way for both my half double crochet rows and my single crochet rows, and I think that's because the stitches are slightly different heights. So I did a couple of things. One of the things that I did was I changed how I did the corners depending on what stitch I was using. So my single crochet rows actually have the open corners. I do a single crochet, a chain 3. Usually you would do a chain 1 or maybe a chain 2, but because I was working in fingering weight yarn, I really needed to travel a fair distance around that corner. So I'm doing a single crochet, a chain 3, and then a single crochet on my single crochet rows. But my half double crochet rows, I'm doing closed corners, and so I'm doing 3 stitches in those corners, but I'm not doing half double crochet stitches. So I just got another book by Dora Orenstein, and it is that one up there with the blue on top. It is the Crochet Skill Builders Workshop, something like that, again by Dora Orenstein. And I don't get $1 for this, but I cannot recommend Dora Orenstein's books enough because she is really speaking to designers and would-be designers and people who want to be able to make things without always relying on patterns. It's great to reference patterns as needed because you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you want to make something. But you also want to know enough to modify the patterns you're working on or design things for yourself. So her Crochet Skill Builders Workshop had a mitered square in it. Hers was all single crochet, but what she said to do in the corners, in those closed corners, was actually use a different stitch in the corner than the stitch you're using for the row, because you want to use a slightly longer stitch to pull your corner out and get this square shape. She's kind of brilliant. She was so right. Because what I ended up doing in these corners actually kind of took her advice and kind of ran in my own direction with it. So I do a row of half double crochet, but then in my corner 3 stitches are a double crochet, an extended double crochet, and then a double crochet. And then again, I go back to half double crochet. And doing that gave me almost a perfect square shape. So because I was using stitches of different heights, I used 2 different means of doing the corners. And for the closed corners, I did what Dora Orenstein suggested, and I used longer stitches just in the corner than I did for the rest of the row. And look at it. I mean, that's a legit square. And we're going to talk about this curling. But I'm very, very happy with this as the base of a sweater, because I really need it to be a square so that the sweater is the right shape. And I think I'm onto something. Now, I still have to make another swatch. My sister's going to be so excited. She gets excited every time I say the word swatch because so many people are anti-swatching. And I'm coming around to it. But I'm going to have to do another swatch in the yarn I plan to use to make the sweater. But in this yarn, y'all, that is a square. And I'm like so happy with it. And because I'm doing these closed corners every other row, you're seeing them very present in this on the diagonal, and I'm happy with that too, because remember, I really wanted to draw attention to the diagonal so that you see it's not just a square, it is in fact a mitered square, right? So I'm really happy with this. So let's talk about the curling. Usually in crochet, curling has to do with changes in your tension, right? So like, if you do your first row as just a chain and then you start stitching in it, you start doing single crochets or double crochets, that first row is going to start curling up because the tension from your stitches is going to be a little bit different from the tension of your chain, unless you try to chain really loosely or you go up a hook size or something. That's why I've started using foundation single crochet most of the time, because that helps the curling. So that is happening on this swatch as well. I'm trying to find the spot I want to show you. Okay, so what's happening on the end here is that because I'm working in a third loop. I don't know if you can see it. Okay, because I'm working in the third loop of the single crochet, of the half double crochet. Let me show you with the hook. See this here and this here? Those are my third loops. Those are being distended on the end of each row. So usually when you do something that's like, say, all single crochet in the back loop only, some patterns will tell you in your first and last stitch of the row, make sure you go through both loops, not just the back loop, so that you maintain nice tension on the edge of each row. I usually don't do that because I know I'm going to seam that edge and it's not going to be as big a deal. But one of these edges is going to end up being the bottom of my sweater. That's not going to get seamed, so I can't have this curling and this variable tension. So what I'm doing is, in the last stitch and the first stitch, you don't see it as much on this side that has the first stitch in each row, just because that chain, my turning chain, is taking up some of that tension, right? But on this side, it's like really, really bad. Like, you see that curl? Except it stops here. And that's because I started doing my my single crochet stitches in the 2 front loops of the half double crochet. So now you can see exactly where I started doing that, right about here, because now I'm getting a nice straight edge, which is what I'm going to need, because this is going to be the bottom edge of my sweater. I don't want to have to do a specific edging on the bottom of the sweater. We'll see how it looks when it's done. But I didn't want to have to do an edging because I definitely don't want to do it in the gray, because I don't want to surround the entire mitered square with gray. I don't want that bottom edge to be gray. And the only alternative would be to do an edging where I have to keep changing colors for each color I plan to use in the mitered square. Neither of those is an ideal option. So I do want to make this edge come out as nice and straight and neat as possible. And simply by changing how I do that one stitch, doing it in the front 2 loops instead of the third loop, I'm now getting a nice straight edge. So I don't think that's going to be a problem anymore. I'm going to do that on both ends, and you can see it a little bit on this end. I started doing it about here, and you can see that the curling is starting to slow down, and I think that's going to solve the curling problem. But again, one of these edges is going to be seamed, so even if it still curls a little, I'm not really worried about it. I'm really only worried about this bottom edge, and I think I have resolved that. See? So it goes from curling to nice and straight. So I had to, it wasn't like difficult. I did it over the course of an afternoon, but I had to work all of that out for myself. And I have to say that is the specific thing that has kept me from attempting to design my own garments. That trial and error portion, right? I know that's what it takes. I know that's part of the process, but it was intimidating for me. And I would see all these patterns. And I was like, well, you know, these people have already worked out all of the issues. I can just follow what they're telling me to do. But that means I was always going to be limited in what I make. I was going to be limited to the exact thing that someone else has already made, something that someone has already designed for me. And it's not that I have like these extravagant design plans. I plan to make very simple garments. I love very simple construction. I don't like doing like a lot of color work or putting like more man hours than required, than absolutely required, into making something. Because like I said, the goal for me is to finish it and wear it. And I'm starting to get over my fear of trial and error. And I'm realizing how necessary that was and how much that was holding me back in my design process. And I'm only saying this in case there's like one other person out there, because I'm not that unique, who is also struggling with that. Because when you're doing trial and error, you have to get used to not getting it right several times in a row, and not letting that discourage you and not letting that function as a setback. And that was an issue for me, you know, not having a win right away, which you can get by following a pattern. I ripped this out so many times, and I was changing what I was doing as I was working on it and getting slightly better at it as time went on. Because when I was working out my corners, I didn't worry about the curling at all. It wasn't until after I figured out what I wanted to do in those corners that I said, okay, maybe I should do something about that curling now. But yeah, just this square for me, I guess that's the theme of this episode, right? Little wins, right? Because my off-road sweater's almost finished. I've gone through 3 of the 4 skeins of my yarn, and now I have my first ever mitered square, which I figured out for myself in a stitch pattern I have not seen anyone do a mitered square in. And you know what? I think it's actually been a pretty good crochet week. I didn't even realize it till I was sitting here talking about it. And I did just want to mention, so I'm again fingering weight yarn. After this sweater, I'm going to have to do something in a bigger yarn though. I need a little bit of a break from fingering weight yarn. As happy as it's making me, yeah, need a little bit of a break. But I also received in the mail what I ordered, my 3mm Clover Amour crochet hook. Now, I have no problem with the Knitter's Pride hooks, and I believe when I spoke about them, I called them Knitter's Pride Dreams. They're actually Knitter's Pride Waves, and I did get show notes up for episode 4, and in the show notes, I called it the right name. They're Knitter's Pride Waves. I have no problems with those hooks, and I would recommend them. However, I am really, really wedded to this one brand of crochet hooks just because they have made me very, very happy over the years. So I did want to try a 3mm hook with my fingering weight yarn, and this came in the mail sooner than I thought it would. I ordered it from Amazon, and it's kind of everything. It's like the thing I have been missing my whole life. This hook makes my yarn happy. And when my yarn is happy, I'm happy. It's the perfect size. It is the perfect size hook for working with fingering weight yarn. The Europeans know exactly what they're talking about on this one. I gotta tell you. It is, you know what? It's like the baby's bear porridge of hooks, right? It is not too hot. It's not too cold. It is just right. It is the absolute just right hook for fingering weight yarn. I'm doing my sweater with 3.25 millimeter, and I'm glad that I chose a slightly bigger hook. But, you know, as I was working with it, I could see that it's not exactly the ideal size for working with fingering weight yarn. And I went down to that 2.75, and that's not going to happen. And you would think that the difference between 2.75 and 3.0 is so small that you don't notice it. You notice it. So I do not want to work with that 2.75 millimeter hook just yet. My mom is making a sweater with a 2.5 millimeter hook, and bless her, okay? But 3.0 I find ideal. So that's what I'm going to try for the mitered square tunic. I'm going to work with this 3 millimeter hook. It feels great in my hand, as all the Clover or More hooks do, except I'm a pencil hold, which makes it an issue for me sometimes finding hooks. That's why I'm like really stuck on this brand that I found that I like and works for me. But I really want to encourage you, even if like your local yarn store does not have 3.0 millimeter hooks, order one online. Get one, try it. If you're working with fingering weight yarn, I cannot recommend this enough. I think that, about to say that's everything I want to share, and it's not, because I have an acquisition. I have an acquisition. I remember telling you all that I was a little bit naughty this month with yarn buying, because I signed up for the Jimmy Beans Wool Indie Dye Club, which is not that bad. I mean, $30 a month for a scanny hand-dyed yarn and enamel pin. I'm actually okay with that. But I did splurge a little bit on something I found through Instagram, and I really do need to spend less time on Instagram. So I found a company called Ritual Dyes that was doing a Zodiac Yarn Club, and when I discovered them, they had already done Aries and Taurus, so I was waiting for Gemini. While I was waiting, I found someone else's Zodiac Yarn Club. I guess I was just like primed for it at that point. And this company is a whimsical wood yarn company, and they say that they exist because life's too short to knit with shitty yarn. So they're kind of a fun company. Their yarns have like crazy names. It says here, luscious on their card, luscious hand-dyed fibers with a snarky twist. But there was no snark, just color and beauty in the yarn that I got. So this is their Gemini colorway, and it is gorgeous. It is perfect for summer, even though it's wool. It's their Pixie Toes sock base that's 75-25 merino and nylon. But these colors, I guess maybe more like spring, right, rather than summer. But the yellows, the teals, the pinks, that gorgeous green in there. It's just everything. How was I supposed to resist this? I mean, I'm human, people. They have the nerve to put the name Gemini on it. I mean, they might as well have just addressed it to me. However, let me tell you what this woman did. I believe her name is Samantha. She didn't just do one Gemini colorway. That's where things got bad for me, like in terms of my credit card, because I couldn't pick. So I didn't. So this is Gemini Twins. And again, it's got all those beautiful summery confetti-like colors, but then it's got this gray in it, kind of toning it down a little bit. And I think this is gorgeous as well. But Samantha didn't stop there. Why'd she do 3 Gemini colorways? So I also got, this is called Gemini, One Zodiac to Rule Them All. So I got 2 of these as well. And I bought so much because I didn't know what the heck I was going to make with these. So I didn't know how, like, I could have gotten one of each, but then, I don't know, if I decided to make something huge or whatever, I'd have been stuck. And all of the previous Zodiac colorways were sold out. And when I saw that, I was like, yeah, this is happening. So this is Gemini, One Zodiac to Rule Them All. I mean, it's even got a Lord of the Rings reference. Come on. So I think, and you tell me if you agree, I think I can actually use these 3 together. What do you think? They've all got those gorgeous like teals and pinks happening. And then I think because this is all the multicolor, then this has got a significant amount of gray in it, and then this goes to black. It kind of feels like there's a movement here from one colorway to the next. So I think I can use all of these 3 together. I might do some sort of contrast color to tie them in, because I'm thinking these might become a cardigan, but I'm not sure. All I have in my head is the word cardigan. I have no design ideas. I don't know what I'm going to do, but this is not something that's going to sit in the stash and not get used, even though it's so pretty. I do kind of just want to stare at it. I'm going to make something with this. Obviously, my queue is filling up a little bit, but definitely some point over the summer, I will be making a cardigan with these. So again, the company is A Whimsical Wood Yarn Co. There you go. And here's all their show notes. I swear I'll get up to show notes, but here's their contact information. And I love it. I just love it. And I couldn't help myself. And I have no regrets. Be clear about that. But I am going to have to like tone it way, way down with the yarn buying. And I know people say that, but no, I really am going to have to. So I'm going to try one of those yarn band things. I don't know that I actually approve of those, but I was going to say until the end of summer, so officially like September 21st, but I don't want to lie to you because I know that New Jersey Sheeping Wool is sometime before that, and if I go to that, I'm going to get some yarn. But let's say until Labor Day, I'm not going to buy any more yarn. I feel like I'm lying when I say it though. I feel really bad. Like, I don't want to lie to you all, but that is the goal. I will set my intention to not purchase any more yarn, because remember Allentown. So I'm going to set the intention of not purchasing any more yarn between now and Labor Day, and I'm just going to make. The goal is to now use especially some of the newer yarns that I have, because I'm still really, really excited about them. But you know, this thing that I'm doing now where I'm not using patterns means it's going to take me a little bit longer to decide what each yarn is going to be, but I will figure that out. So that is, I think, everything for now. The last thing, just in case someone's wondering, this is a draped front cardigan that I made. I don't remember the name of the book. I know it was like one of those little booklets, and it only had like maybe 5 patterns in it, and the idea was that it was very low sew garment construction, which I loved. So I will put that information somewhere. Show notes. I swear it's a thing. CrochetCryss.com. But I did want to talk about this yarn because it is discontinued. This is Lion Brand Jiffy, and when I got it, I absolutely loved it. I loved it. You know, it's purple, so that's speaking my name, and it's got almost kind of like a marl thing happening. It's a nice chunky weight, but I see why it was discontinued. I don't remember what this is made out of. I think I have one ball left, but It's somewhere in the stash. Almost immediately, it got all pilly and fuzzy. I don't know if you can see how much of that you can see, but it's a mess. I don't wear it out anymore because it's so, it's looking a little dilapidated, and I'm really upset because, I put so much time into making a thing and I really like how it came out, but it just, I don't know. I could try like shaving it a little bit. I don't know if you can see. Let's just do this. Oh yeah, you see all of that happening? That's not good. Oh, come on, look at that. So, I don't know what you all do when you make something and then your yarn is not so great and it starts to fall apart on you. So if you have any advice, please do share that with me, because I love this thing, and right now my only plan is to just make another one out of a different yarn, and I guess it wouldn't take that long if I used another like really bulky yarn. But it's sometimes yarn is a bit of a minefield, and I'm only able to wear it now because the air conditioner is cranked up a bit. It's not like I can wear this around the house all the time. I might just start wearing it again and pretend I don't know it's all fuzzy and pilly. Puzzy, I guess that's a new thing, right? When something's pilly and fuzzy. But yeah, what do you guys do when you make something and then your yarn doesn't hold up? Somebody give me some advice, because I'm at a loss here. But it's purple, so it wasn't going to go unworn. Anyway, that's the last thing I wanted to share with you. Hope this made sense for you as I was talking about my mitered square and getting a little bit into the weeds about it. And if you have any questions and comments, let me know. I am trying to reply to all my comments, all 3 of them that I get right now. But that's fine, because that'll baby step me into the whole replying to comments thing, right? But yeah, so let me know if you have any questions. And in the meantime, stay stitching.